Hello and welcome to the session. Today we are going to discuss about single responsibility principle in solid design patterns and try to understand the basic thought process behind SRP. We will walk through the definition with some real world example and then at the end we will try to implement it live as well. I highly recommend to watch the entire video. You can play it at a higher speed, but please watch the whole video to understand it properly. Now, let's start with the definition. SRP states that every software component, whether it's a class or module, should have one and only one responsibility. This definition looks good and logical as well. But what does it actually mean? And what is responsibility means in software development? Let's try to answer these questions in next few slides. Now we will see some real life example to have a better understanding for SRP. The image on the screen is a Swiss knife. It's a multi-purpose tool. It contains blade, keyring, scissors, etc. In real life, it's a very useful tool. But in software development, if we consider Swiss knife as a class, it's not a good design. Clearly, it violates SRP because it holds multiple responsibility. So, what could be a better design? Let's consider a knife and a scissor separately. These two are different objects. Each has its own purpose and they are assigned with just a single responsibility. So they are following SRP. This type of design in software world is considered good. Don't worry, we will see why it's a better design. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What exactly is responsibility means here? Unfortunately, there is no exact answer to this question. Different developer might have different opinions about this term. So, defining SRP with the help of keyword responsibility seems logical, but it's not practical in development. Now, we will see another definition for SRP. Every software component should have a single reason to change. This definition again seems a bit fuzzy, but we can now say that a class follows SRP if you can't think of more than one reason for it to change. Let's assume you go through a class and try to identify the reasons for it to change, but you can't think of more than one reason. Well, then in that case, it is following SRP. This definition is suitable for practical and real world scenarios. Now, you may ask, but why? Why should there be only a single reason? What if we have multiple reasons for this class to change? In that case, if there are multiple reasons to change the code, the frequency of code change will increase for that particular component or class. If there is a frequent code change in the class, then there is also a high probability of introducing bugs, and this will lead to raising the maintenance cost. So, design pattern is not something good to have on your resume. If you follow these principles, then you might save a lot of developer effort as well as cost. To have a better understanding, let's go back to our previous example again. Consider this Swiss knife and think about the reasons for making the changes. Maybe you want to replace the blade, scissor, or hook. Let's assume that you need to replace the blade. In this case, you would also need to separate out other components such as the can opener, hook, scissor, and keyring. There is a possibility that you might not be able to reassemble them correctly. But why do we have to deal with hooks and scissors when we only wanted to change the blade? The reason is that they are interconnected and you can't modify one of them independently. So, when fixing the blade, you must address other components and this will definitely result into an higher maintenance cost. Now, let's consider knife and scissor as a different object. Suppose you need to sharpen the knife. You can easily do that without affecting scissor. As a result, the maintenance cost in this particular case will be much lower than it was in the Swiss knife case because you do not have to deal with other components. Now, we will move to the coding part. We will start our code by implementing a movie class and main function. add a few data members in the movie class to store the information. Let's generate a constructor and create an object as well. Now let's implement another method save info to save the content into a file, and this save info method will take file name as an parameter. Here we need to create a file stream object to save the content into the file. So we have created a save info method as well. Now if we just run this particular program, it will save info in first movie info file. So let's assume you have created a bunch of other classes like this, and each of them has their own implementation of save info method for saving the content into file. But then the requirement changes, and now you have to save the same information on a database instead of a file. For this particular request, you would have to update all of those classes. Now the question is, can we prevent this? Keep in mind that we are not trying to prevent the update in the save info method itself. Instead, we just don't want to change all of those classes. We want to be able to modify just one class so that this request can be fulfilled. What we could do is create a separate class that consists of all save info method from different classes. And then all operation related to saving the content on a file could be handled by modifying this single class. So let's try to update our current code. Let's relocate save info method. Make it static as well. Now we can't just access these data members directly because they are private in movie class. Let's generate some getter method. Let's pass an movie object to this particular method as well and call this getter method to access the information here. So this program will also have the similar output to the previous one. The only difference in this program is that now if there is a requirement change related to saving the content on the file, we don't have to modify this movie class. Instead, we have delegated that particular responsibility to this storage manager. The movie class is only responsible to store movie related information. So this was a live demonstration of single responsibility principle, and thanks for watching and see you in the next session.